Alright, so our site looks really good, but it doesn't do anything. So if we type stuff, we can do whatever, hit the submit button, nothing happens. So this is going to be a quick one where we're just going to do like an intro to JavaScript. We're going to make it so that when we type a name in here, and we type a phone number in here, and we hit submit, it will create a new one of these boxes in this layout. So it will be exactly like our application is meant to work. So let's get started. We're going to need to create a JavaScript file. So new file, and then I'll call it script.js. And again, we have to link that to this file. So in the head, we can go script. It's different for scripts. So src, which means source, equals script.js, type, text, JavaScript, and that's all we need. But with the script tag, it's not self-closing. Actually, is it? Maybe it is self-closing. Nope, it's not self-closing. So we have to do that. Okay. So now that script is linked, and now we can use this to script some stuff. So I'm going to start by creating a function in here, and bear with me while I do this. So function is going to be on submit. That's it. So basically that means that whatever I write in here, this is going to be the code that will be executed when this function is called. So a function is essentially a description of some stuff that will happen at some point. It's like saying, here's a box, and every time you open the box, all this stuff is going to happen. So we want to make it so that when somebody clicks the submit button, it fires this script. So, well, sorry, this function. So I can go on click, and then I just name the function, which is, what's the function? On submit. On submit. And this will execute the function on click. So what are these brackets about? Well, when you execute a function, you can pass in arguments. And this is a way of changing how the function works. So if you imagine a calculator application, let's say we had a function called add. It might look like this. We're not going to use this in our app, but this is just so you understand. We might have a function called add. And let's say that function will say the result will equal to number 1 plus number 2. So what this is saying is that when you call this function, you have to give it number 1 and number 2. And then this function will, whoops, I need that. This function will create a variable called result, and that result will equal number 1 plus number 2. And then this function will return result. So you can see how we could make a calculator with this. You can see what this is for. So when we execute the function here, in between these parentheses is where we would pass in any arguments that we want to. So if this was an adding function, we might pass in the actual numbers for it to add together. In this case, we don't need to worry about that because this onClick function is going to pass in stuff for us. I'll show you what that means in a bit. So if I go, actually we don't need to worry about that. We're not going to pass in anything. We don't need to pass anything in. So we're just going to have our empty parentheses like this. Okay. So when our script is submitted, what we want to do is we want to say, hey, whatever the value is, well, multiple steps. So the first step is going to be we want to get the value from this, and we want to get the value from this, and we just want to store it in some variables. So we can do that using this magical function called getElementById. So I could say variable, so first of all we have to get the elements. So variable, I'm going to call it full name input equals document dot get element by ID. So what's going on here? So this get element by ID is a function, just like this is a function. But this particular function does take in an argument, and the argument that it takes in is the ID of the element that you're looking for. None of our elements have IDs. We can solve this problem by giving it an ID. So ID equals, I'm going to say, full name input. And then same thing for this. Phone input. So an ID is a unique identifier. So now, if I type full name input there, it's going to actually be able to find that element. So what's this dot about? So this document thing, this is an object, and it's like a default object, I guess, that comes with JavaScript when you're running it in the web. And it's a representation of the actual document. So JavaScript is a language that is used in all sorts of different things. So if we want to do something with something that is actually on the page, we have to first get a reference to that thing. So this is our input box. For us to get a reference to it, there is a function inside the document object, which is the page, called getElementById, which allows us to get an element by an ID and then do something with it. So what's happening here is we are storing that element in this variable called full name input. We're storing like the code representation. Oops, what did I just do? We're storing the code representation of this input box. And there's all sorts of things that we can do with it. So I'm going to do the same thing for the phone box. Phone input, get element by ID, phone input. And now, we don't really care about the boxes themselves, of course, we just want what's in them. So I'm going to create some new variables. I'm going to say full name will equal to full name input, which is now a representation of that input box, dot value. And that will be the actual value of that input box. It'll be what you've actually typed in. I'll just make it phone. So phone equals phone input dot value. And now we have those stored, and we can test this by going console.log. So the console is like this this little window of text that we can use to do some debugging. So we're going to say, we're going to print out, we're going to print out our full name and our phone on submit. So what's happening here is when this form is submitted, we're getting references to those inputs, then we're getting the actual contents of those inputs, and then we're going to log that data out to the console so we can see it. So what's the console? So that's saved now. Let's go to our website, refresh the page, and I'm going to open up this inspection window. So remember we were looking at this before? If we go to the console here, this is the console. If I type something in to both these boxes and hit the submit button, we should see those values pop up here, because that's what our script does. And yay, it works. So that is that, and that is that. Excellent. So we've just confirmed that we're able to grab those values in JavaScript. So our next mission is a bit more complicated. The next thing that we have to do is create a new one of these contact cards, and we have to slot it in underneath all these other contact cards, and we have to give it the actual values that we've just obtained. So a multi-step process. First thing I'm going to do, we have to actually create the new element that we want to insert. So what are we going to call it? I'm going to call it new contact card. document dot create element. And this will allow us to create an element. And then we say, what element do we want to create? We want to create a div. So we've just created a div. And this is the same. We've basically just done that. But we haven't actually even put it in the document yet. So it's just kind of created in the ether. We haven't done anything with it. We've just created a blank div with nothing in it. And it's just sitting here in this element, in this variable. So we have to start kind of step by step adding all the different characteristics. So we've got to give it this class. We've got to give it these children. So let's give it a class. We're going to say new contact card dot class name equals, and then we're going to set that class name to, what are we setting it to? Contact card. So now it has a class. Excellent. And the next step is that we actually need to create now separately this element and this element. And then we have to one by one make them children of this parent element. Very time consuming process. So I'll call this name element or new name element. New name document.create element. This one's going to be, what is it? H3. Nice. And then we actually can set the value now. So new name element dot inner HTML. So this is just what's inside it. We're gonna set that to full name, which is a reference to here, full name. This is what we've actually obtained. Let's do the same thing for the phone. New phone element, create element, and that's a H4. New phone element in HTML equals phone. And now we have to make this H3 and this H4 both children of this div. So we're going to go new contact card dot append. So we're going to, what are we going to append? We're going to append new name element. Then I think that we can actually just do a comma separated list. So we can do new name element and new phone element. And that will append both those things underneath. And then we want to append the new contact card. So this is the tricky part. Well, the part we haven't done yet, I guess. We want to append this new contact card, which we now know contains our new name element and our new phone element. And we want to append that underneath all of these other contact cards, which means we want to append it to this contacts holder. So we have to go through a similar process. So we get it with an ID and then we append. So it's going to need an ID. And I'm going to call it, well, contacts holder. That's fine. Contacts holder. So then we can say, and I'm not even going to bother storing the reference for this one because we don't need to. We're not going to use it again. So, oh my god, what am I doing? Document.get element by ID. Contacts holder. So now we have a reference to that. And we can go straight to append new contact card. And that's done. So if this works, now we should be able to go back to our website, refresh that, don't forget to refresh, type some random stuff in here, hit submit, and boom, we just got a new contact card. And now we're starting to see a problem with our footer. This is why fixed stuff is not such a good idea. So let's try to solve our footer problem. I think it might be better. Let's just not make it fixed. So we're starting to get this problem with our footer now. So really, it might actually be easier if we just make it relative. So we go back to our less, we find our footer. We're not going to do position fixed. We're just going to do width 100%. And that's all it needs, actually, I think. So refresh the page. What's gone wrong here? See, what's happened here is I've accidentally put our footer inside something. Our footer shouldn't really be inside anything because it's just a part of the page. So I might we got to remove that footer. So our footer is here. I'm just going to take that out and put that underneath the content holder. There you go. So now we refresh this. Oh, whoa, what's happened? Oh, I know what's happened. It's because our footer styling is also in the hierarchy. So we can check that out. Should just be like that. Yeah, content holder and then footers at the bottom. There you go. So now our footer is looking right. Our footer is looking as it should now. Undisturbed. And we can actually scroll. So we can now add things. Let's add, wait, Homer Simpson. His phone number would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 because it's a simple one. Yay! And it works. We can just keep adding Homer Simpson all day long. A problem here though, we should probably make it so that once we click submit, it gets rid of this text. So we can do that really easily. We just go into our script, and because we have references to everything now, we can just go before that. It doesn't really matter, but we can go, where is it? Full name input dot value, and rather than getting that value, we just set it to something. We'll just set that to nothing. And then phone input dot value, again, nothing. Refresh the page, do some stuff, hit submit. It's up here, but it's not here anymore. Excellent. And that's some basic scripting. So this is cool. We could make this live now. But the problem, of course, with this page is that we're not storing this data anywhere. We're just putting it on the page. So when I refresh the page, it's gone. And you can't run a real website like this. So we're going to start to make this a bit more real. So in the next video, I'm going to show you guys how to make this in React, which is a modern web framework. It's still not going to be persistent. That's going to be the next step. And then, yeah, so after that, I'll be showing you guys how to actually make a database so that we can have a real website live that works like this.